have any approval? None. Okay. Board of Ben?
Yes.
Okay.
Good morning, Mr. President, board members. It's a pleasure today to present service award pins to 2 county employees today. The first one, these both are from Department of Public Works. And the first person would be Mr. Jerry Hopkins. Mr. Hopkins, are you here today? No? Okay. Mr. Hopkins has 25 years with the county, and we want to congratulate him on that, and we will present the pin to Mr. Freelix on his behalf. The next person is Mr. James Baker.
Bringing you?
We want good gifts. Well, I'm honored on behalf of the Board of Supervisors, Mr. Baker, to present you the Service Award pin of 15 years with Hinds County. We want to say congratulations and thank you for your service.
Thank you. And can we switch those and let me have the 25 years?
You give me 10 more and I'll be glad to.
Congratulations, sir.
I would just like to say, Mr. Baker and I have traveled somewhat in the same circles practically a lifetime.
You're right about that.
He and I were
45 years.
over at Jackson State. Back when Jackson State University was known as Jackson State College.
Oh, man, that's Miss Jackson State College, right there on the front row. Oh, we did. Jackson was Jackson.
You have to blame his memory on the old age because he does not remember that Jackson State University has not been a university that long.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. That concludes the service award. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see, next on the agenda, elected officials. I did see tax assessor, he must have left. Okay. Okay, then we will go to, I guess you'll be handling the good kids.
Yes, sir, I present them to you. We received a request from Honorable Judge Kidd relative to an order for appointing and setting law clerk 2 salary at $34,750 per year and is payable at a rate of $2,895.83 per month plus benefits effective May 1st, 2011.
Okay. What's the pleasure, board?
So,
It's been moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
Move by second discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. Okay, and the next one is,
Yes, sir. We also received a request from Honorable Tommy Green, Circuit Court Judge, and she has 2 items. The first item will be the order ending clerkship, Law Clerk 2, effective June 30, 2011.
what that mean, put the end of the clerkship?
I believe that she is changing a position and moving it into a different position. So she's concluding that position as of July 1st and bringing on a new staff person in that position effective, ending that position June 30th, 2011, and starting a new position July 1st.
Okay, pleasure, board.
so,
It's been moved. Second. Move by second discussion. All in favor say aye.
aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. Okay, the next one.
The next order appointing and setting law clerk 1 staff attorney salary at $34,500 payable at $2,875 per month, plus benefits effective July 1st, 2011. The salary shall increase $40,500 payable at $3,375 per month. Law clerk 2, staff attorney, plus benefits upon passage of the Mississippi Bar.
Okay. Ready for?
So moved.
It's been moved. Second. It's moved, proper second discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. Okay, next item is approval of minutes.
In the very first item. Good morning, Mr. President, members of the board. Excuse me for that short break. We have the minutes of May 31st, 2011, and the minutes of June 6th, 2011 for your approval.
Ready for vote?
So moved.
Been moved. We have a second. Second, been moved, proper second discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried.
Thank you very much. Moving on to your claims this morning. On Friday, hopefully you received the packet that I emailed you from Kentucky. On behalf of Mrs. Carter's office. If you did not, I apologize for that. However, in that packet was your order for today, which included the schedule of an interfund advance. This is an advance to catalog of federal domestic assistance grant number 16.803, which is your Recovery Act. It is a burn JAG grant. And this is an advance from the General County Fund in the amount of $2,000, and we present that for your approval.
Ready for vote?
So moved.
Been moved. We have a second.
Second.
Moved, proper second discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried.
Thank you very much. Your claims this morning are claim numbers 4,461 through 4,677. Claims of interest to the board this morning. The first of those are claims for the Mississippi Valley Tidal Building Utilities, and they are claim numbers 4,469 and 4,470, and we present those for your approval at this time.
Ready for vote?
So moved.
It's been moved. We have a second.
Second.
Moved, proper second discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried.
Thank you very much. Your claims over $100,000 this morning. The first of those is claim number 4,467 to Cigna Healthcare. This is over $100,000, and we present that for your approval at this time.
Okay, ready for vote?
So moved.
It's been moved. Have a second. Second. Moved, proper second discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried.
Give me just one moment, since I forgot to put the list of the things over 100,000.
Looking at the AP, for the
That's
AP,
Yeah, that's what I was looking for, was the claims over $100,000.
if it's, I guess, well, we can talk about that later, straighten that up.
I'm sorry. I have a copy right here. Thank you, though. Your claims.
Your claims over $100,000 this morning are claim numbers 4,510 to AT&T.
In the amount of $173,343.81, and that is your telephone service for E911 and county telephone service. Claim number 5,424 is to the Jackson Hinds Library System for $122,178 even. That's their June allotment. And claim number 4,644 is to the Mississippi Public Entity Workers' Compensation for $201,477, and we present those claims over $100,000 for your approval.
Okay, let's pray for it.
So moved.
It's
numbers 4,642 Chambers and Gaylor for $1,852.50 for the Byron Parkway Utility District, and claim number 4,670 is to Dana L. Price for $2,880 for the assistant to the board attorney. Unless you would specifically like to vote on those separately, we'll include those with the remaining claims. And your claims are 4,461 through 4,677, less claim numbers 4,467, 4,469, 4,470, 4,510, 4,524, and 4,644, and we present those for your approval at this time.
Okay, let's play board.
So moved.
It's been moved. Do we have a second? Move by second discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried.
Thank you very much. We have the order approving the claims portion of the minutes for today, Monday, June 20th, 2011, for your approval.
That was what?
The order approving the claims.
Okay, let's play board.
So moved.
It's been moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
Proper second discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried.
Thank you very much.
Let me ask, so we've already taken care of it. Where are we, Mr. Carroll, or maybe, Mr. Baker, only, I was just looking at the landscaping, or that's a payment for Highway 80, I guess, have you had a chance to look at that? Where are we with the payments?
Tell you what we are.
With the payments?
We're almost at the point where we can make final payments. As a matter of fact, we're going through the punch list, checking off the various items that are to be addressed by the contractor. The contractor has replaced a lot of plants or tree shrubs that had died over a period of time. He's replaced those plants. Likewise, we're in the process of purchasing, the coalition that is in the process of, purchasing the tanker so we can keep the existing landscaping out there with water. So we're just about ready to close that project.
Okay, yeah, I know about the tanker, I just didn't know what we were budget on the payment wise. Okay, all right. Next item, Mr. Grant.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, I'd like to ask Mr. Pollard with American Medical Response and Mr. Bryant with the county to come to the podium for a second. This is regarding, this issue is regarding the works session that we had the other day, where American Medical Response made a request to amend their contract by adding 4 different additions, or what I call life-saving measures. The induced hypothermia, the intraosseous infusion, the continuous positive airway pressure, and the saline solution. My motion this morning is going to be that we accept this amendment pending approval by the board attorney or review by the board attorney. I think any time that we can add any type of life-saving measures to our ambulance service or to our emergency response, I think it's worth doing. This also is just on a personal note. This induced hypothermia, I had a couple of calls this weekend regarding people that think that this is a very worthwhile venture that they're undertaking and that they need to do immediately. I don't know about anyone else here, but in my family, heart attack runs very deep. I've had 5 members of my family to have heart attacks, and I had a first cousin to die of a heart attack just Thursday this last week, so that makes 6. And so I think that any time that we can add these particular type of life-saving measures to our county, I think it's worth doing. And I just wanted to see if there was any additional information that American Medical Response or Mr. Bryant, who's responsible for this, might have as it relates to these 2 issues.
Thank you, Mr. Graham, Board President, Mr. Cadu. This Friday, I talked with State Board of Health, Mr. Jim Craig, and he was very excited about this hypothermia treatment therapy also. He said that the statistics that it shows is life-saving. It's a great percentage. And he also stated that AMR is basically the ambulance service in Mississippi is doing it now. So it's a good procedure. Oh, as I stated last week, I just hope we can figure out a little better way to do that.
Intraosseous infusion.
But I think it's one of the state of the art functions and also save for lives.
Yes, sir. Thank you for a moment at the microphone. My colleague Keith Cameron, who's one of our communication center supervisors, and Ms. Diane Coates, one of our operations supervisors. Ms. Coates has had the lead on the induced hypothermia project for us for some time. If I may, real quickly, first of all, Mr. Graham, we're always empathetic. Our condolences on those 6 losses from heart attack in your family, and to all others who lose loved ones. And to respond to your remark, Mr. Smith, I'm told that on the intraosseous procedure, where we drill a tiny hole into the shin as an alternative route to get fluids and medications into the patient's circulatory system, I'm told that the drilling is not painful. I have been advised by my paramedic colleagues that once the fluid begins to enter the marrow of the bone, that is painful, and as a consequence, we will typically precede the medication or add to the medication some lidocaine to reduce that pain and discomfort. The intraosseous procedure is in place in a fair number of ambulance services across the nation. There are very few that are doing the continuous positive airway pressure technique, which is similar to the kind of pushing of air into the patient's lungs that a lot of folks have at home, a device that helps them cope with their sleep apnea. So we now have that capability for a couple of purposes. One is to reduce the number of instances in which we put a special breathing tube into the patient's airway, so-called endotracheal intubation, that's putting a tube into the trachea. The CPAP will reduce the number of instances where we have to put that tube into the patient's airway. It's obviously considerably less invasive procedure. Anytime in medicine that you can substitute a less invasive procedure for one that's more invasive is recommended. And folks are shown by the research when they have CPAP versus endotracheal intubation that their hospital stays are shorter because they're less likely to develop complications that come with the intubation. The saline blocks, hospitals have had them for quite some time. We've had them for a relatively brief period. It gives additional flexibility for the administration of fluids and medications to discontinue one fluid or med and insert another fluid and med. And that really is a valuable asset for our medics. And also when you get to the hospital staff, not paramedics in the field, but the hospital staff can use a saline block to draw blood. And if it's already in place, then they don't have to implement it unless they choose to. Perhaps the most dramatic of these 4 procedures is the induced hypothermia. The research is extremely promising. The anecdotal evidence, the case-by-case evidence is also quite powerful. If you were to speak with some of the physicians who had the opportunity to cool patients' bodies after they suffered a heart attack, and then through the work of our paramedics regained a pulse. And those are the patients that we're starting with the induced hypothermia procedure. Those patients, a significant percentage of them have considerably less, substantially less brain damage as a result of deprivation of oxygen to the brain after the heart has stopped working. Because what the induced hypothermia does is similar to when a child was falling through the ice. You know, some of these stories where a child was submerged for 45 minutes or some such in extremely cold water. The hypothermia that we induce with the cooled fluids, the cool IV fluids, basically reduces the body's demand for oxygen and thereby helps save brain tissue and heart tissue. I believe at the work session last week, Mr. Bryant observed that we have not asked for a rate increase of any sort since 2008. I believe you're familiar with the remainder of the rate sheet, the rate schedule, the list of charges. It's quite lengthy, so essentially what we're trying to do here is please enable us to recoup our costs and make a reasonable return on the investment with these 4 additional charges that will enable us to provide patients with these new forms of therapy, which we know will be of substantial benefit to the patient. One way to look at these items is that these are additional tools in our paramedics toolkit in our fight against sudden death and disability. And we request your approval of these new methods and charges, please.
Okay, well, I have to wait for Ms. Catlin to come back before I can make the motion, but in the meantime, obviously you're going to continue with defibrillation?
Yes, sir. All of the other procedures and supplies and equipment and medications in the remainder of the schedule of treatments and the fees that you all approved for them in 2008, they remain unchanged, including defibrillation.
Okay.
And again, let me emphasize, in many instances, the patients who, in practically all instances, in many instances, the patients who suffer cardiac arrest will need defibrillation, particularly in a couple of different forms of heart attack. So we're not going to get the opportunity to induce hypothermia, that is to reduce the patient's core body temperature with the chilled fluids unless we get pulse back. And defibrillation enables us to get pulse back on a significant number of patients with two particular forms of heart attack.
Okay, well, we've kind of, hold on, we lost our Carl. Yes, sir. But I think the people that have to use this type of services certainly should be thankful that I know they don't possibly necessarily want to recharge, but the advantage of saving a life is the important thing to us. I would hope that we would certainly be in favor of making sure that the services out there look forward. So we just have to hold here for a minute or two.
If I may, Mr. Smith, and of course everything in medicine is a matter of teamwork, and we would like to emphasize that we have coordinated very closely with the hospitals. A substantial number of them have been cooling patients' core body temperatures for some time. As Mr. Bryan indicated, it appears that AMR will be the first ambulance service in Mississippi that will be offering this form of therapy. We've had one patient who we chilled induced hypothermia on a couple of weeks ago, so far just one. We have 5 of the special coolers that are kept on the ambulances in order to keep the IV fluids at a fixed temperature, and we have ordered 50 other coolers. So we'll coordinate very closely with the hospitals. All of the procedures here have been approved by the State Board of Health. Mr. Bryant referred to Mr. Craig, who's has a position, substantial responsibility over all of emergency medical and trauma and disaster preparedness in the State Board of Health. So again, it's all a matter of teamwork. It's all been coordinated with the physicians and the State Board of Health.
And you say, and coordinated with the hospital?
Yes, sir, absolutely, absolutely. They will know on every patient that we intend to induce hypothermia, and they'll be ready for that patient in that condition when we arrive.
And if I understood you to say that you have 2 of those at this point ambulances?
We have five
We have
five coolers on board, 5 different ambulances that are presently the ambulances that our supervisors and our field training officers use. And we are expecting arrival of 50 more coolers, these are specialized coolers again, to keep those coolers at precisely the right temperature. And Diane, do you know when those are due in house? They were ordered about 3 weeks ago, so they should arrive pretty shortly.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
You want to check on?
While I have a moment, since we're waiting for.
I thought you were going to sing a song or something.
Right.
While we're waiting for it.
Right. Hold on just a minute.
Yes, sir.
Go right ahead. I don't know, maybe you're going to sing it.
No, not me.
If I may, just a quick word, shortly, as in sometime in the next several weeks, we will have a grand opening for our new headquarters, immediately behind where we are now. As you know, we're immediately north of Medical Mall. But we expect to move into that new facility sometime in late July, early August, and then we'll, as soon as we have everything, all the different implementations phased in that building, we'll have a grand opening and invite the community to come take a look at what is their regional ambulance headquarters, is the way we view it. I must give praise to Mr. Primus Wheeler and his team over at the Medical Mall for being so wonderful to work with in seeing to the construction of that building, which we have committed to lease long-term, multiple years.
Let's get on the back, but let me, we need to move on, but let me ask, I forgot to ask this.
Yes, sir.
When will the building, when will the building be finished?
The building is supposed to be ready for when the city will come and actually sign off on the final inspection. It's supposed to be in late July, early August, and we'll be moving in a fair number of items. Until then, they won't actually let us use it as the headquarters until the final inspection. So we'll have that transition period that we're extremely well, which we have mapped out in great detail. Our communications center, Keith, will move after the rest of the folks, after the rest of our personnel and equipment have been moved. And that's to enable us to make absolutely sure that the switchover is going to be totally invisible, transparent to the community.
Okay.
All right.
All right, we will move on now. Mr. Calhoun is back.
Okay. My motion would be to approve the request from ALR to amend their contract to allow for adding the addition of 4 life-saving measures pending review by the board attorney.
Okay, it's been moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
It's been moved. Mr. Proper, second discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. Okay, thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Go
you.
out and continue to help us save lives.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Next item, Ms. Calhoun.
Okay,